Back to the Dean Obeidallah show. Joining us now, our friend Representative Ilhan Omar, a Democrat representing the 5th Congressional District in Minnesota, serves on the House Budget Committee, House Education Committee, Deputy Chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. And don't piss her off. That's all I'm saying, folks, because I've seen the video. She is a tough one. So good to see you. You've always been tough. Like, that's what I like about you. I like a lot of things, but you're tough. So it's good to
Yeah.
have you on.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
I'm from Jersey. You got to be tough. Where I come up in the mean streets of Paramus by the shopping mall that closes at 9:30, and it's a tough life. All right, it wasn't that tough where I grew up, but still, it's Jersey in any event. So let's talk about something that's tragic potentially. The GOP's plan to cut Medicaid. I see all different things, but 800 billion, even if they cut 600 billion, it would be so painful for so many millions of Americans. Could you share a little bit? If they were to cut $800+ billion from Medicaid, a program that helps nearly 80 million people in this country as a lifeline, what would that really look like in the real world?
Yeah, I mean, their current proposal is to cut $880 billion in Medicare, Medicaid benefits. The reality is that's what our seniors rely on for healthcare. That's what funds nursing homes. In Minnesota, 54% just of births are covered by Medicaid.
Wow.
It will impact obviously women who are pregnant, children. It's going to be truly a huge devastation. And as I pointed out to one of my colleagues, on the chairman of the budget committee today, he was talking about the cuts are going to come out of waste. And one other area that he mentioned was like undocumented folks. The They want to make people believe
Mm-hmm.
that undocumented people in this country get benefits, which is not true. That's not the case. But to their supporters, what they hear is non-citizens are getting care. Non-citizens are getting benefits. And the reality is there's so many people, as I reminded him, when I came to the United States, I came under refugee status. I had a green card. There were 5 years before I became a citizen. Obviously, I worked, my whole family worked, we paid into the system. Obviously, we are to benefit from the system as well as taxpayers. This conflation of illegal to a lot of their supporters has become non-citizen, and that excludes a huge portion of folks who live in America, who work in America, who pay taxes in America, and who do genuinely qualify for the programs. But they are going to use people that we know do not qualify for the programs, are not on the programs, to create the justification of these devastating cuts. And when you have that level of disruption in the system, one of our like trauma one centers in Minneapolis, so much of their funds comes from
Mm-hmm.
Medicaid. And so if, I think it's something like 40 or 50% of their resources. If those services of those dollars are not coming in, that means they have to lay doctors, nurses, nurse assistants, all of these people off, right? They have to stop providing services to so many people. And that creates a problem for even people who are on private insurance, because then you're not going to be able to have that hospital fully functioning in order for you to get the services that you need in a timely manner. Now, when you think about rural America, we're talking about community health centers, right? Those are the ones that are, when we had the freeze, people were reporting that they were planning on shutting down the next day. They were sending emails saying nobody come in. So a lot of these programs rely on federal funding. And so when those dollars are not going to come in, it is not like it's not going to impact the person you hate. It's not going to impact the person you think is unworthy of getting services. It's going to impact you because we are interconnected as Americans because we all rely on these institutions to serve us. So by weakening these institutions, it means that we will not get the care, the education, the support that we need on our time of need.
I think that's great. I appreciate you laying it out that it is interconnected. Also, we see some Republicans expressing concerns with deep cuts to Medicaid. I mean, in the House, 40% of people on Medicaid are white. It's one of the biggest chunks of Medicaid recipients. So there's a lot of Republicans. What can you tell us? Is it just corporate media coverage? They find the one Republican in the House it's concerned, or is it really a sincere concern to scale back any cuts to Medicaid because it really is going to hurt their constituents and then in turn hurt them politically?
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to have it both ways, right? They know that they want to give this $4.6 trillion in tax cuts to the uber wealthy in this country, while they shortchange the average American. And they want to have these cuts without them being noticed and talked about. And so we know that in a lot of these committees of jurisdiction, they are not having the markup that they're supposed to have in putting the bills together. We know that in a lot of the other committees that had marked up the reconciliation bill, they're instructing them to not speak. So you saw that in the oversight committee where Democrats are like, okay, so do you support these cuts? Where are you going to find the cuts if it's not if you're not cutting Medicaid? Where are the cuts coming from?
Right.
Yielding them time, none of them responded. On natural resources, I think it was just um, now where they're doing the same thing. On the education committee, they decided to go after part-time students and said you don't qualify for Bell grants. And when pushed, they will say I support every child in this country having the opportunity to get higher education. But you are choosing to say that unless you are able to work, go to school full time. So if you're a young mom like I was in college, you can't you have to choose between taking care of your children, you have to choose between working and putting food on the table or getting an education. Like that's not the America that we all know that provides opportunities for all. And so they are literally choosing to remain silent and hope and pray that the American people don't notice the damage that they are causing.
Well, when it becomes personal and affects them, they're all going to notice. I'm tired of Representative Ilhan Omar. Same thing with the economy. Back in Minnesota, when you go back and speak to people in your district, what are their concerns about Trump's erratic tariffs and his war on Canada? And how does that affect Minnesota?
Yeah, I mean, we have huge trade with Canada to the tune of $22 billion.
Wow.
And, not only is our his tariffs erratic, they're harmful because it is the American people, the taxpayer that ends up paying for it. It is a form of taxation.
Yep.
The other thing is that he is so ill-equipped to have, which makes sense, like that he has like 11 bankruptcies because the man does not understand economics. Yesterday, I was so embarrassed watching him with the Canadian Prime Minister as he talked about how we are subsidizing Canada. Sir, if you buy something from somebody, you are not subsidizing their economy. They provided goods to you, they provided services.
Right.
So as Americans, we buy steel from them, we buy lumber, we in Minnesota, we buy wheat from them. The idea that he can't, the idea that our trade with them somehow is subsidizing their economy as if we're just writing them a blank check without getting anything. It just shows that he can say any stupid thing,
Mhm.
and people will try to make sense of it, and think he's strong and smart and like a negotiator, and he knows what he's doing, and it's clear. The markets are showing it is clear at our grocery stores that have empty shelves. It is clear of the folks who are trying to make these tough decisions about whether they are going to raise the prices, whether they are going to eat the losses, whether they, are going to find other suppliers. It is really challenging for folks who especially run small businesses.
I have to stop subsidizing the bagel store by me because I get a bagel and I give them $1. No, it's like $2 now. This is ridiculous. They just give me the bagel and I just leave, right? And
Yeah.
I think isn't it deeper that Trump doesn't pay for anything? Like this is a guy who lives his life where he gets free food at the White House. He's
Yeah.
screwed over contractors forever. So he's just screwing people over and getting things for free. So to him, buying something, it's an exchange. It's a contract. Here,
Yeah.
I give you
I mean,
something and you pay.
and they're doing something really funny with the math, right? We know that egg prices has gone up 23%
Yeah.
since January, and they're like it's down by 56% or something, and it's like okay, well, people who regularly go and buy eggs, they can see that I was just at Aldi and it's like 365 is what I paid for eggs. If you go to Target or somewhere else, it's more expensive. But for Aldi, as my son reminded me, 99 cents.
Oh, wow. You see
Typically,
that?
a dozen of eggs, are like 99 cents or $1.20. And so it's still a big deal to people if you're paying three times more for eggs. But we're talking again about Trump, right? Somebody who says the word groceries is it's an old ancient word, but like, it's still in use. I don't know how it's still in use, but it's like
Is that your Trump impression?
I
That's
don't
good. You
know.
have to work on the hands a little.
I know.
I think you got it. I can
But
hear
it's
it.
it's 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 just it's so frustrating
Mhm.
um to have a president who's just says the most silliest things and is a constant embarrassment, and to have so many Americans who still like hold on to this promise that he is like the great knight and he's going to save us.
It's not. It's nothing. He says it's everything's a lie. I was on News Nation and they were asking about the crypto thing with Trump. I'm like, yeah, getting investment tips from a convicted felon's not the best idea. I'm like, that's up to you what you want to do. But this guy, everything is a lie. Nothing stops with him in terms of lies. The I got to ask you your reaction to something that's slightly lighter. JD Vance apparently has nothing to do as vice president. So he's watching clips on YouTube of you from 8 years ago. Make a statement or a comment you made literally 7 or 8 years ago about based on Anti-Defamation League, the ADL, about a white supremacist violence that was going on at the time. And does he want you to apologize for something? Does he want, and the comment was about our country to be more fearful of white men across our country because they're actually causing most of the deaths within this country. And I remember that. I wrote about that at the time that came out. What do you make that JD Vance finds something from this many years ago and tries to score political points with the base?
Well, he is, we know that he doesn't really have anything to do as the vice president. All you do is just make sure you're waiting, and waiting to be the errand boy for a president that's incompetent. And so there aren't that many errands for him. So he's become the reply guy. That's kind of what he does. He's in everybody's mentions, and it is quite unfortunate. It's also unfortunate that he didn't understand like the point I was trying to make about the irony of trying to profile a racial group depending on what the violent crimes that are committed by an individual, and then saying, like, okay, a Muslim guy killed somebody, so we're going to now profile all Muslims, or a white guy kills someone, now we're gonna profile all of them. Like that was my point, is that like
Yep.
if this idea of fear is supposed to somehow create monitoring and data, like nobody is going to win, because ultimately it's going to create dangers not just those of that particular group, but for everybody. And as everybody knows, I am extremely anti-profiling, creating
Right.
databases. I voted against it multiple times, and I've been very critical about the Patriot Act and all of these ways in which not only are people profiled, but oftentimes entrapped in many situations, and then are given these lengthy sentences as if they are actually a danger to society, when it is sometimes law enforcement that kind of creates the plot, and people get entrapped in it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to speak to JD Vance and remind him probably about 98% of the people on January 6th were white guys who attacked the Capitol. But if you say that you're bad, but if they were black or brown, they would be saying that all day on the right. And that's the double standard we navigate. We understand. I'm
Well, I
Representative
mean, you don't have to go far. You could just look at the comments. Like every response is with a graph of like how violent, black men are, and it's like, oh, so you're comfortable by constantly denigrating and creating this image that, a certain group is violent, and that is your response to being triggered by like stats.
Well, I mean, we live in a time now. If you say the N word to a black child, you can get $800,000. It's like a new game show. Say
Yeah,
the N word
yeah,
to black kids, and they'll be rewarded.
you
So
can raise $1 million. Maybe you should give it a
it's
try.
I'm not gonna, I saw Mark Lamont Hill with Piers Morgan, and I like Mark. He's like, he was trashing Piers. I've been on Piers' show a couple of times. Let's not talk about Piers. The on a, I also, because you are an immigrant, what is going on in the immigrant community back in Minnesota as we see Donald Trump, his ICE are deporting American children with cancer against their parents' wishes. As we know, the lawyer went on MSNBC, and I talked about on the show. If you have a green card and you say something about our foreign policy this administration doesn't like, they want to deport you, just kidnap you and disappear you. But I imagine there are just immigrants who, documented or not, mixed status families in your district. What are their concerns? What kind of fear are you hearing from them?
Yeah, I mean there is extreme fear and concern, because we have seen many incidents where people have been basically snatched off the street and have been detained, who are citizens. And so, it's not just the folks who are undocumented that are worried. It's people who look like
Mm-hmm.
they might not be American born, that are feeling very afraid. I'm seeing a lot of people talking about carrying around their birth certificate. I've seen people ordering the passport ID. I don't know if you know that you can get an ID version of your
I've
passport.
heard that. I do keep my credit
Um,
card. Yeah.
and so there is a lot of fear in and a desire from a lot of people to feel secure in not being caught up. And we're seeing schools. I just did a Zoom call with, I think, 135 students from one of the schools in the district. It was four or five classes together. And I do those all the time. I rarely get asked about immigration. I rarely get asked about, how am I supposed to protect my friend, my classmate, my neighbor, from young children. And it's been really sad and troubling to have so many young people with that level of anxiety and concern. And I just, and I think the other big fear for folks who are undocumented, and folks who, have a slightly um, less settled status, if you're on a visa or, work visa, school visa, a lot of those people really are afraid, not just from being deported, but they're afraid of the new trend we're seeing, where deportation is only considered if you're sent back to your country of origin, right? So you are not being deported, you're being humanly trafficked if you are sent to another country. And then you're sent to a prison. You're not like usually when deportations happen, people are sent back to their country unless, that country is taking them back to serve out a prison term. People are not sent to prison.
Right.
And so that this new criminal, like insane policy that the Trump administration that we know is also unconstitutional, it's creating a lot of fear. And now we're hearing about Libya,
Yeah.
where we know that there is a huge possibility because the warlord Haftar's son was in the White House. We believe that there is a possibility that they negotiated folks to be sent there. And Trump today, when he was asked, he said, ask the Homeland Security director. I don't have an answer for you, or the Secretary of Homeland Security. But there is documentation of flights that have taken off to Libya, and we know that there are people that are being deported. And we know that they're not Libyans. These are so it's not even deportation. It's basically kidnapping and human trafficking of individuals to be tortured in a place that many people know has prisons where people are severely tortured, and we know that they are oftentimes sold, not if not as a whole as a
Mhm.
slave, but also in
Right.
parts. And so it's very,
Wow.
very dangerous, the situation in Libya, where a lot of us have been raising the alarm uh to now send people who are undocumented in this country, who themselves have not committed a crime, or we don't even know because we can't get an answer from the president. So it's really unfortunate.
It is, and I think you put it so well that it's if it's back to their country, it's deportation, it's human trafficking. If it's some other country, why are you sending them to some other random country
Yeah.
and not their
And
own?
I mean, and can you imagine, like, if if you somehow were in a foreign country, and something happened where they're like, you need to leave, we're going to deport you, and somehow they sent you to, I don't know, some other country, to Russia or something. Like, that's insanity. And the fact that people are willing to defend that tells you, that not everybody cares about the Constitution, not everybody
No,
understands the Constitution, not everybody is for the rule of law. And we've been duped by so many folks who've said that that's what they cared about. And we have to be honest about that.
they don't. Yeah, it would be like I'm from Jersey. It's like deporting me to North Dakota. I'm like, what am I doing in North Dakota? I don't want to be here. Like,
It's
what is
it's
going?
nice in North Dakota. I went to college there. The people are very sweet.
All right, well, maybe South Dakota. Where's Christy Nome from? I
She's
can't
from
remember.
South Dakota,
Oh,
yeah.
that's the one. I don't want to go there. All right. Well, look, we're out of time. I really enjoyed chatting with you. I mean, there's other topics, but we'll have to save it for another day. But I appreciate it as always your insight and your toughness. I really do appreciate it. So thank you, Representative. Nice chatting with you. I look forward to chatting with you in the near future. Hopefully next month.
Yes. Sounds good.